So, guys, I'm Nancy Mura, and I'm the founder of the Private Practice Network. And I'm here with my co-host, Paul Silovsky. We're the host and co-host of The Juice, giving you a little nutrition for your practice, like a B12 shot in the arm. At least we hope so. I want to go over some things that we have going on. And before we get Paul started, if you guys don't know Paul Silovsky, Paul is the owner of Rebound Physical Therapy. He's been in practice a minute and a half at least, right? He's been in practice, I don't know, 2 decades, Paul? How long you been in practice? A long time. 17? More than that. Because your staff are with you 17 and 20 years. So anyway, he's been around a minute. He has 2 locations. 29. He's going to have a 30th. Oh my gosh. He's got a practice older than some of y'all's kids. I said y'all. That's for Emily Watkins, who's not on here yet. You get the girl from the Bronx and she starts using y'all. It's kind of scary. So guys, the first thing that I want to tell you about is this Accelerate event we have coming up in New Orleans. So first of all, there's people that have been to our events a couple of times. Jill Ramsey, who's here, was at the last one, and she's adult. And because you guys know we do a lot of stuff with the peds, but this stuff is pure admin tech. It doesn't matter if you're pediatric, you could be a chiro, you could be a veterinarian. It wouldn't matter. You can apply this. It doesn't matter. So these conferences, the reason why they're pediatric is that, to be honest, no lie here, full transparency, the peds are like, you got help? Can we get some? And so we give them a lot of help because they, quite frankly, they ask for it and they demand it. And they're like, when's the next conference? So Jill and Regina, who's on here, they're both adult PT practices, and they came to the peds event. It's peds and it's kind of branded kind of pediatrically, but the content is 100% administrative technology. We are going to crush it on this recruiting, hiring, onboarding, retaining aspect of HR, because it's been a real crisis for you guys. So Paul has come to, I don't even know. I mean, at least 10 years worth of conferences that I've put on. One was like 7 years were the one that's Survival Strategies, who, by the way, are our sponsors. Survival Strategies is a training and consulting company that's been training and consulting private practice only. That's all they do for 34 years. And some of their people are on here. So hi, Lisa Kelly, glad you can make it. Lisa Kelly, Paul has a question for you that she can put in the chat, and I wanted to make sure that she got her question answered by you. That's what we do. We just try to give you as much help and connect you up with the right resources. I didn't have the answer for Lisa, but I know Paul does, so we'll get that happening. But anyway, back to Accelerate. So this one is in New Orleans. The hotel is almost sold out. Have about 35 rooms left. And when the rooms sell out, the tickets sell out, because there's a citywide event called Jazz Fest International, and you can't really get a hotel room anywhere else. So once that's done, you won't be able to attend the event. Paul, why don't you speak on, okay, so here's the thing, guys. I keep hearing that you don't want to bring a lot of staff, which usually you people do, because of the airfare price. But you got to remember that you got to look at the return on investment. You got to look at the amount of amalgamation that when you bring your staff, it has. Now, I'm going to talk to Paul on this before he gets to his beautiful topic today. Paul, you've been bringing staff for, I don't know, 20 years, 17 years. Can you speak on that for a minute while I pop a piece of pineapple?
Two things on that. I mean, there's arriving to stay connected to, for me anyway, from my viewpoint, staying connected with the content that's provided through Survival Strategies, through this, in this case, Pizza-Palooza, but the survival stuff. Actually, it's so cool what they've created, because they've taken guys that have effectively applied these tools to their practice, and they're the ones that are presenting now, which is a little bit of a, it's been even a larger shift, because it used to be where we had a dream team panel up there of experts, and then there were speakers that came in. And so staying connected to the source of our expansion is really been important for me personally as an owner, like acknowledging the fact that, well, when I did X and I got Y result, I just keep that in. Plus, it's probably probably one of the most embracive training tools that for my staff. Matter of fact, my guys missed it during that COVID. This used to be done for the adult, not for, it wasn't just for adult practices, because we had adults and pediatrics and audiology. We had a lot of different people.
Survival only.
Right. When in its beginning, and my staff, the guys that have been with me for all my executives, I brought all my executives every time. I mean, they became pretty well known at the conferences because in the breakouts and what like that. But they got so much out of it themselves in connecting with other, like-minded executives and practice owners. So, the networking's like a sub product, like a sub benefit, the engagement with the networking, and that's what I go for, as well now too. I mean, I've come to 3 or 4 of your guys' pediatric ones.
Yeah.
I just, I'm gonna, glean off of, and I've been doing this a really long time, and I'm always still looking for that nugget. I know for this one coming up, I was telling Nancy before we started, I'm like, man, I'm looking at sending two of my HR people. Luckily I have 2, HR people, but 2 of my staff to this one. We were just talking about it, and I was just looking. I looked at the lineup and thought, man, with the state of the union, if you will, in the area of hiring and retention. I know for us, it's we know exactly what it's worth. I mean, our a PT for us is somewhere between 230 to 250,000 a year in gross income, not net revenue. So if I come away with one tool that allows us to secure one more therapist, it's $250,000 for us. That is how I view it, by the way. One or 2 tasty morsels that you can go take away from the that you can execute on, right? Not an idea. You don't want just ideas. You want executable actions to become more effective. That's the way I view it, and that's what I tell my guys to go. Look, you're not going to drink Budweiser or just go to the socials or whatever. Well, if you do that on your own, that's fine. But we're going to come away with, we actually use it as a time to get together too as a team and do our planning. So that's how we do it, and it really becomes an effective training tool.
And look at that. Paul's been doing this. He's been coming to these events for like literally 20 years or 17, some crazy amount of time. So he does not have that, like, I know it all. He does not have that barrier. That's a really big barrier to learning, by the way, is when you think that there's nothing for you to learn. That is a very dangerous place to be in, especially in private practice. We get people all the time that just are like, oh yeah, I've got this app that I run my business. I'm like, you run your business like with an app, like just nugget find. We call them nugget finders. You cannot nugget your practice to a raging success. And I want you all, and Paul wants you all to be ragingly successful. So yeah, so that's Accelerate. Carrie Lee, can you put the landing page in the chat so that people can look at the agenda? Now we're going to have an agenda change, Paul. This is exciting. I know you're going to be excited about this. 2 weeks ago on the Lemonade, we had Emily Watkins, who's on here, and she is darling and delicious and driven. She is 3D, baby. And she did a presentation on core values. And you know what? Emily can retain her people and attract people for a youngish practice. She's 50x'd her practice in like under 4 years. She's 50x. 50x. She's 50x'd her practice. And one of the tools she has is that she's great at recruiting. And the other thing is she's great at retaining and building like a real solid, stable family. And so she's like what I call our leadership ambassador now. That's what I've nicknamed her. And she presented an hour at the Lemonade, and it was met with rage success. If you were on it, it was tremendous. And so we're going to have Emily is going to do an expanded version. And that's also really good for your staff to see, because she created this. She wasn't like, an oligarch and said, this is my core values, come work for the queen. She didn't do that. She developed this with her team. And so it's really beautiful because they create it. And usually when people have an investment, they're more likely to adhere to it, promote it, stick to it. And it's been truly tremendous. So Emily is going to do her first presentation. And like Paul said, we train people up. She's a survival strategies client. And she's done about 3 or 4 programs, and she's just been amazing at applying them. Paul's been one of our clients for 20 years. And then we have Diane on the Sunday, and she's presenting all day on onboarding and training. And she's one of our longest term clients that we've ever had. She's done every program Survival Strategies has. And she grew from a one-man band to 3,000 visits a week. Obviously not overnight, but she did that over the lifespan of her practice. And she's presenting. And then we have Matt Hansis from Uplift Marketing. And he's a brilliant CEO, people person. He did the last Lemonade. Emily was the one before that. He was also met with rave success. And so we want you to go home with a real action plan on this idea of hiring and retention and onboarding and everything that it takes, because it's a staff employee driven market right now. These guys can go anywhere. They can go across the street. They can go get $15,000 more a year and more PTO, and they can pretty much put you over barrel and get almost whatever they want or leave. And both of those scenarios for an owner are terrible, to be put over a barrel. We're doing a payroll makeover with one of our clients, Bryce Bailey. He's an MBA in healthcare management and a CEO. He did the referral management program, and he grows his practice 33% a year every year, because our programs are built to last. They're not like a one and done. You don't constantly need, it's not like the gym where you go and then you have to keep, like, once you have this, you have it. Once you have that fine fit physique of your practice, that's it, as long as you implement it. So you can't just go to the gym and then eat a bunch of cheesecake after you got all svelte. You got to keep that, you got to keep the successful actions in, of course. But anyway, all right, so that's it. We got to accelerate. That's coming up. The hotel rooms are, oof, they are just flying off the shelves. You got to book your room. I think Friday through Sunday is available. The Sunday night is going to be the next one to go. So Friday and Saturday, fly in, fly out, have a beignet, get a lot of hiring. And Carrie's laughing. I always bring food into the equation. Dang it. All right. Well, without further ado, so this topic here, Paul, this planning and operating from the right why. I love that, because it's ominous enough that you're like, do I even think with that? Do I even think with the right why? So planning, I get that. Operating, I get that. But out of the right why. So why don't you take it away and tell us exactly what that means? Impart us with your wisdom.
Yeah, and this as it usually is with me, you know, I'm going to give you, I'll give you one piece of what I consider to be stable information to view problems in your organization from, because I'm sure there's at least one person on here that has one or more problems to solve. So this is a problem-solving tool to evaluate a category of why. Okay, I can do another webinar later on, although quite frankly, you know, I've got some training from Survival years ago on, after I had done management training, I did what's called some advanced management training to increase my personal ability and my staff, my executive staff's ability to then, you know, break it down from a metric analysis standpoint, if you will, right? All these statistical, you know, or benchmark indicators that you might look at, or key performance indicators, whatever terminology or phraseology you want to use. You know, that's not what I'm going to get into today. I will show you a couple of examples of correlative reasons why we stay on this pathway, but I'm going to share with you guys a broader management tool that if you really capture what this means for you and your practice, you'll walk away from here today at least looking at things a little differently. You will not be an expert. Your skill will come in application of one thing that I give you in the second or third, whatever is the third slide, whatever the early slide I show you, I'm going to give you some examples. I will not dive into, you know, analyzing a practice with regards to, you know, collections per visit, or, some revenue factor, or, I'll talk about those things as indicators you can look at. You're not going to be able to walk away from this going, oh gosh, I know exactly why. I know exactly the thing I need to press into. If you're lucky, you'll find one really important thing, and then you can plan around that. So I'm going to give you a broad evaluation tool that I learned. It's actually out of a reference that I read, early on in my management training with survival strategies, that I know my vice president of administration and I use this all the time as an evaluation tool to then zero in on one of three areas that we need to lean into in our organization to fix problems. So that's my setup. That's where the title came from. I'll share the data with you here pretty fast. I guess I should share the screen. So that's my brief introduction here. Let me find, oh gosh, did I close it? Okay, wait a minute here. My presentation disappeared, Nancy. This is interesting. Pull it back up. Now, sorry about that. Okay, Nancy, can you see my screen okay? Yep, okay, good. So here we go. So this actually shouldn't take too long. I would like to actually get into examples or question and answer, because what I'm going to go over will require you to look at your organization and zero in on one of these three areas. And you'll probably have all three at some level. I know we still have to monkey with all three of these things, but it really gives me direction and focus on planning and operating, whether it's week to week or month to month. I tend to operate more off a strategic plan, just because of the size of our company and the fact that I manage from a distance. So I'll work on things that take months sometimes to change, weeks to months, where my guys here, boots on the ground, are working week to week, and maybe in a 6 or 7 week period, I'm already working on the middle part of the year, or into the later part of the year. So the question is, where do most organizational problems come from? So not all, but where do the majority come from, and how can we categorize that, right? So most organization problems come from three main sources. And this comes from a reference in the management training that I want to credit, my training with survival strategies. So if you look at the problems that hit your plate, through this specific lens, you'll save yourself a lot of time and energy with your weekly planning and handling. In other words, I tend to manage whether I'm building relationships with referral sources, whether I'm having a meeting with one of my executives, or if I'm doing some planning with my executive team. I always start with a general platform or a general framework. And I go from general to specific. I am not a person that dives in to try, and this is, pardon my phraseology here, but I don't try to pick the fly shit out of the pepper from the viewpoint of going in and dissecting something specifically from the beginning. I start with broad strokes. So I love the categorization of this that I'm going to show you guys. So if you looked at things from a senior executive viewpoint, whether you're the owner or one of the senior executives in your company, so whether you're over the whole company or whether you're over a division or several divisions, look at the traffic that hits the communicate. When I say traffic, the types of communications, the type of problems and communications and challenges that you're presented with that physically hit your plate, every week or every day, however you tend to view it. And you look through this lens, I think you'll find it helpful. So here's the three main areas. Okay, I'm going to describe each one of these. So, and Janet, who's my VP of admin, when we have our weekly meetings, or when problems present themselves, we'll look in these three general areas first. Okay, while we do manage by statistics very significantly, but that's an innate daily, weekly process for us, that we are looking at metrics of areas of the company or individuals. More broadly, when I look at the things that challenge me as an owner or challenge me as an executive, I asked myself this question: is this problem, because this is where most organizational problems come from, is this a problem of hatting or hats, meaning do I have someone that should be wearing that hat, and is that person trained? So the hats in your company, obviously, between your administrative staff, or your front desk staff, or your billing and collection staff, your folks that do insurance verification, or PR and marketing, all the support functions, or if you're large enough where you have a whole executive team like I do, where I have someone over all the admin functions, someone over all the operational functions, and someone else over all the PR and marketing functions. Are the hats well defined and established and written up for every post in the company? That's what I'm talking about here. And then underneath that, obviously, underneath, let's say, a front desk person, there's a myriad of hats, like how you answer the phone, how do you schedule patients, how do you handle patient pay scenarios. Those are all separate hats. Okay, just like you have a multitude of hats in your life. You could be a mom, and you can be a spouse, and you can be a sister or brother. You can be, you've got all these different hats you wear. With the company's the same way. So is this a hats problem, a hat, or hats written up? And I'll get into some specifics here in a second. Or is there just nobody there wearing that hat? Okay. And then the second one is the lines, and we're talking about communication lines. What are the flow lines to your company? How well known are these people that are supposed to be wearing their hat or be positioned in your organization? But what happens with the communication lines? Do the lines flow in such a way that they're fluid, that they're mostly linear, that they're not confusing, they're not upsetting to you or other staff members? Do people go to the appropriate terminals, or to the folks that are supposed to be wearing the hats in your company? How many people jump those lines, right? Those I'll use as an example later, but because this is actually, by the way, this is how I got myself into a position where I can run and manage remotely, because I'm responsible for all of these things. I'm responsible to make sure that not only are the hats written up, but there's people hired and trained and placed on these positions so that we stably expand, and that the communication lines of the company stay in. And then the third one, which will seem probably the most obvious for everybody, is your personnel. Like, who are the people that you're establishing as stable, stable individuals in your company that are wearing their hat, that they're stably on their post, that they're there. But are they the right people? You can put anybody on a particular position. You can give anybody a hat, but will they wear it? Will they be themselves? Will they be effective, functioning, cooperative personnel in your organization? Are they one of the definitions of an organization that I've seen before is an organization is made up of three things. It's made up of purposes. Your company has a purpose. It's made up of lines, these lines of workflow and communication through your company, and they're made of of terminals, people that you create as terminals. Not it's something that you don't just hire someone and put them on post and say, well, good luck. You have to find the right person and train them and teach them how to communicate and generate effective, meaningful workflows through your organization. So broad strokes here. If you looked at the traffic that hits your plate every day, the problems that hit your plate, when I say the traffic, hopefully you're getting good news and positive things are happening. But when a challenge shows up, ask yourself, is this a problem that there's either nobody there, there's nobody wearing that hat, or did I not write it up and hand it over? Because if you started your company, you probably know every hat in your company. Maybe don't know how to do every function of it. Like you would want me to do the billing and collections function on our software, but while I could collect money, while I could be taught how to send out a bill, those things were done by somebody else from the very beginning. So that person, who was my wife, she's still my wife, but was doing that as, she's my wife, but she wasn't the wife in the company, right? She wore that hat. She wrote all those things up and turned them over to somebody else. And so when a problem comes to you, you can go, wow, is this a problem of no hats or no hatting, no training? Or is this a problem of someone jumping the lines, which I'll give you a specific example of in a moment? Or is this do we just have the wrong person here? Is this the wrong person for our company? Would they be better off somewhere else? Are they a better fit? Should I help them find another place to function as an effective, person in another company? Because sometimes we're just not a good fit, right? We can think they were, and if they can't do these things, if they can't wear a hat, they can't effectively communicate, they're not going to be the right person for our company. They aren't going to make it. And that's fine if they don't make it, by the way. Sometimes we still make a mistake here and there on the personnel, or with the things that have gone on in the environment the last several years. Sometimes people really go the effect of that, and because we want to be a stable place of sanity for people. We want them to know that they can be, that they can wear a hat and communicate effectively and be themselves here. So sometimes, we have to, just, look at the situation and go, well, we've trained them and they do know how to communicate. They know the lines of the company, but they're just not playing by the rules of the game. So that becomes a personnel thing. So here's the deal, when you find the right why, particularly as you build your executive team, as you build your key guys that you lean on and lean into and really expect to work closely with, you'll get a boatload of agreement. You'll get tons of agreement when you're working on the right why. When everybody agrees that it's one of those three areas, and then I'm not dissecting what about one of those areas, whether it's your front desk, operations, or whether it's your financial controls, your billing and collections, or how you pay or not pay bills, or how you manage your income, or whether it's your operational functions of the workability or training of your clinical staff, or whether it's your PR and marketing, you just don't have enough new business. Those are all separate activities that you're getting paid to effectively evaluate, but you can categorize it and go, gosh, do I have people on posts and I train them up? Are people following the communication flows of the company? And do we have the right people? So here's a few examples of each. And I've kind of alluded to some of these things, and I can give more specific examples. And I know that I'll have plenty of time on this one because I didn't make a bunch of slides. And I would totally willing, with Nancy's help, to engage with you guys and problem solve with this tool, because I know Janet, not just Janet and I, all my executives know this. We ask ourselves these questions, and it keeps me honest. I'm still, even though I'm managing from a distance, I still look at these things on the traffic, the communication, and the types of problems that hit my plate. I have to ask myself this one first: is that hat written up? Is there someone on post that's trained? It's one thing to have it written up. It's another person. It's another responsibility to train that person and get them on a training pathway to become more effective, right? So when people come to me for some activity or hat that's not being worn, or worse, not yet written up, that's a hatting problem. That is a problem of, oh my gosh, just because I told that person how to answer the phone, or because I told that person how I want them to, execute on getting someone to pay for their full plan of care, or a therapist to get, the patient's agreement on doing the taking on the full plan of care, and much less just paying for it. As that person, while you've told them, is there a training pathway? Is it written up how to do that, so that you can correct people, so you can train people, so you can correct them, so you can enhance them, so you can give them a real sane and logical way to do their job and save them time, help them create, more prosperity in their life, more prosperity for themselves and for your company, and obviously exchange for your services with the public you service. So is that hat on? That is the question I have to ask myself first. It's like, well, is it even written up? I mean, is it duplicatable? Is there a policy in place that allows people to be successful? Because if not, then I might be the problem, right? I mean, if I know how to do it, just because I know how to do it, or I told someone how to do it, can they effectively, be trained? Can it be written up so well that they're trained, and they could go to that process or that procedure and not only, hopefully sometimes even correct themselves, but find out what they don't understand or don't know how to do, and be, drilled or trained to increase their skill, because then you'll have to spend less time in that area going forward. Little carve out a caveat here. When I was working my way, out of working on things outside the company more, and some of you guys know this, I physically don't live, I'm in Kansas this week or through today, but when I was working my way out, I would just look at those things that were either frustrating me or keeping our organization from expanding. And I would ask myself that question I told you before. I'm like, well, is it written up? First of all, is this my hat? Which goes into the second one in the second the lines problem. Is it written up, and is it occupied by someone that's trained? So that's a couple of additional steps there. And then my frustration kind of went away with either that person or whatever was hitting me. And I went, oh, this is really my problem. Now, if it is written up and they have done some training, it might be one of these other categories, right? So it might just be, trying one more time to get them on the train or on the pathway, following the flow lines of the company and following the policy of the company. But so that's the first one I asked myself. Second one, when someone in your company, and I'm sure this has never happened to anybody, comes to you all the time and asks you questions, or comes to you to relay information that's really someone else's hat that you really don't need to know. That's a lines problem. That is people not knowing where to go. That isn't if they haven't been trained on that, that's a kind of a dual issue there. But if you've got an organization, if you've got an organizing board or a flow chart or people that are responsible for specific functions in your company, okay, and they're coming to you, and you're letting them do it, you're perpetuating these problems, by the way. But I'm just telling you simple truths because I've done it. And when I learned to just take them over to the organization, or the organizational chart that we have, or take them to the individual that's responsible for that and correct them, then I freed up so much more time. Like, while I'll talk to anybody in my company, I have a policy about that on access to the president of the company. I have a policy about, communication with me, that my door is always open. You can always contact me. I'll never talk to them about things that are someone else's hat or someone else's responsibility, provided I have someone on that post and wearing that hat. I just don't do it. I just redirect them and get the lines back in, and then I'll write a little study order or something like that. I'll get them to review. Sometimes I'll just take them to the org board and just go, here, this is who you go to, and do you remember? Oh, that's right. Sorry. But sometimes, so shockingly enough, people will come to you just because you know a lot, because you're super capable. They know they can get a decision from you. But if all decision points run through you, you're kind of screwed, because you're not creating an organization that can make decisions based upon policy and proper hatting and just get the flow lines going through the company. So that's a lines problem. This one was the easiest for me to fix because we did get trained and we did have an organizing board, and we do have people here that are very capable and are responsible for what they're responsible for, and we just direct the traffic to that individual. Okay. Third thing, when someone has been fully hatted and or fully corrected for jumping the company lines, let's say that person comes to you a couple times and you're like, okay, wait a minute, we've already gone over this before. Don't bring a finance thing to me. I have, or let's say it's a billing and collections thing. Don't come to me for billing and collections when I have an income director or someone that's running the billing collections department. Don't come to me because I'm a PT and because I'm the owner of the company and I understand finance really well, or don't come to me with a coding question when we have a operations person that's looking at the correct coding initiatives that we have going forward for maximizing our collectible values. Don't come to me. Like, that's not the right. I'm not going to answer the question for you. I'm going to send you the person that you can go ask that question of. And so if they keep doing it, or they keep screwing things up after they've been training or disrupting the workflows, they're the wrong person. I've only had to fire one senior executive for this exactly. Brought someone in to help out on our PR and marketing lines when Wendy had taken a little. Our PR and marketing director had her fourth child and needed some time away and reduced her time greatly. So we brought someone in to do that. And this was the scenario. This person just kept screwing things up after multiple attempts to train, and they knew the lines. They got the training. They demonstrated an ability to perform the action, but they kept just making mistakes. And, it was really more than they became, egregious errors. So I'm like, okay, this is really simple. When I looked at the pattern of the history, it was real easy. You just make the phone call and meet me at the office and we're done. Sorry, pal, but we're not doing this anymore. Had multiple chances, multiple opportunities. It was a personnel problem. It wasn't any of these other two. And it makes it really simple. It doesn't make any less of a burden for you to then lean into writing up these operational functions and these hats and training people or keeping the lines in. You still have to do it. People will still, particularly new staff, will come in and they're used to operating in a really peculiar way, just going to whoever they think will have the answer, or whoever they like the most, or whoever they think's really cool, or whatever they're most comfortable talking to. Well, that's just not the way it's gonna. You're never going to create an organization with stable folks on post or stable terminals following the lines of the company and fulfilling the purposes of their post or the company. So more on the right why. So it'll be up to you to scale the importance of each of these three areas, all right? Hats, lines, personnel. Particularly if you have you may have all three things going on. I know we still sometimes do. We're much better. We're probably the best on the personnel side of it. And the fact that we just keep improving our training systems on the hatting part of it, the lines thing is not a problem here. At least this as soon people recognize as soon as it's funny when I come back once a month, I'll sometimes I'm sitting in my VP of operations office that I sit out in this area. And I still have to correct my guys sometimes. I just, I'll see some traffic come rolling in the door and I'll look at the executive and just kind of tip my head, kind of like give a funny look, and they go, I know. I go, yeah, well, you just need to handle it then. Like, why is this person coming to you? It's like, knock it off. You've got someone that can handle that. You'll cut your traffic. You can literally increase, statistically speaking, at least the amount of unnecessary traffic that hits your plate by at least 50% in a given day if you take responsibility for these things happening and get people wearing their hats and get people following the lines of the company, and of course hire good people. So you need to do a little bit of evaluation on this. You'll need to have some evaluation tools that help you determine which one is costing you the most or which one has the longest lever for you. Because if you've got very few hats written up in your company, well, this is where you can use your metric analysis, your key performance indicators, your benchmark, your statistics, whatever it is hopefully you manage by something objective. You lean into that and go, hey, if I handle my collections per visit first, or if I handle my arrival rate first, or maybe that's the hat. Maybe that's the hat you need to write up first. Certainly do some evaluation. I would say work with if you don't have a consultant or you haven't done some kind of an analysis of your company, talk to Nancy or Carrie, because they can help you with that. I've done more analysis than anybody, guarantee you, than anybody on this call. And I did one with before and after every program that I ever did, but I still do analyses. I still work with folks that help me look at ways to leverage what's the longest lever. And it's really important to do that with statistics. So some of the tools, obviously statistics, trends by divisions in your company. Are you tracking things with your personnel and your human resources division? Are you tracking obviously marketing functions? Are you tracking finance functions? You probably are at various levels. But really diving into those statistics, I like to tie them to finance. I convert our production, our visits or our charges or the starts that we get, the evaluations that we do every week. I convert them to dollars. I convert everything to the financial. Like, well, I have a statistical report. I have the statistics that we manage production wise by clinic and individual providers and all of that. Then I take all that and I convert it, and I have a subset of statistics that I use that tell me where we're at financially. I actually have a financial statistics section that's separate. It's like a separate company. I run it differently. But, financial reports, obviously charge per visits, collections per visit, arrival rates, units per visit. Important in my adult sector anyway, for sure, the units, gross income per full-time equivalent, or gross income for, based upon the number of that staff that I have. I look at that every week, and then we look at over longer range periods too. And of course, the traditional things that people look at between, evals or starts, visits, charges, collections, those are all great. You have to look at the what first, and then you look at, who next, because that's the personnel and the heading part of it, because I need to know who I need to lean into. So those are other evaluation tools that, I'm not going to get into the specificity of this. Like I said, we can do a separate talk on this, because this is beyond those three categories of hats, lines, personnel. I like the broad strokes, and then you guys are probably all smart enough, particularly if you're working with someone that's helping you look, because your observation skills have to get pretty darn good to know which one of these many things to lean into. Honestly, I'm only working on one or two at a time. Actually, our whole strategic plan for my executive team, we only have 5 strategic targets. And I only have one of those targets, while I'm overall 5 of them with my guys. Then there's one of them that has 2, and each of the other guys have 1. And I share one with this training side of things, because when I'm not done until I'm not completely in the highest condition I can be as an owner and executive, until every one of those hats is written, every one of those posts is filled, and those people are fully trained. So imagine that. Every post filled, everybody on post and doing their job, but fully trained and capable. That's a big job, but they are the problems that you run into just on that one factor. So, and then this next point, one or more of your stats and or substats will correlate with your profitability. And this is where it gets fun for me. And I'm going to show you a couple of graphs. I do this all the time with these presentations. I at least try and show one graph. Most every time if I can. Last one I did on the power of promotion, I'll share that one again to show you the correlatives on what it looks like. Because while I say hats, lines, and personnel are where the majority of your problems come from, I can also tell you it's where the majority of your success. I'll flip the narrative and say, well, I don't like to sit around thinking about problems or inviting them. I'm certainly aware of them when they hit my plate, but you want to have more successes than do problems. And that's my hey, as long as I'm at least 51% or higher on the positives, then I'm doing good. And I'm always striving for that. I even want to see, I want as long as I bat 51% or higher, then we're going to be good. So look at it that way too. Make positive gains in those areas. But find those correlative things that will move the thing. Watch ethics reports. This is another area. This is another simple management tool, evaluation tool on WISE. I look at when I say ethics reports, good or bad, good ethical conduct and or problem areas. So if you guys are documenting people showing up late or not being in compliance with their weekly reporting, with they have 3 or 4 correctable upsets with the public or other staff members, then just look at where's the noise in your company coming from, and see if that's the problem too. That usually becomes the personnel thing, right? The personnel part of it, but it also tells you the area of the company. Oops. Oh, it didn't. Okay. I'm gonna get out of here. This didn't save my graphs that I'm looking for. So let me get out of here, and I'm going to stop the share for a second. Nancy, I want to see if there's any questions, because I just said a lot there, and I have no idea whether this resonates with the group or not. So a good time for me to check in and
I can't imagine that it wouldn't, Paul. It was amazing and broken down really well. Jill Ramsey said it does. Thank you. Jill's also, I think, a management program. So this is probably a bit of a refresh, unless Jill, you won't know. Jill, you've done a lot of programs with survival. I was going to say maybe you only did the referral, but let me just tell you, all of these are nuggets from the management program. And just so you get an idea of that, the management program is here's what it consists of, because you're going to hear word on the street that it's expensive. Like you'll talk to people and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not doing a program because it's pricey. Guys, let me just tell you it's like, okay, that's great. Is it, you get 3 hours of consulting and it's a lot of money? That wouldn't be great. Is it something like what Paul just did and it's a lot? Here's the deal. It is pricey, whatever you want to call that. People would never think of spending this money on a car, But for your business, it's a whole other schlemovie. But let me just tell you what you get, because I got into like a thing with a lady about it once, completely disrelated from the group. But here's the deal. You get like a 16-hour analysis, the analysis that Bob said he does, called the practice analysis. Christine was on here. You talked to one of our amazing business analysts, Christine or Mary Claire. They're brilliant. They're beautiful. They're compassionate. They love to talk to you, even if you're not looking at a program. They just want to give you all the resources and get you plugged in. That's our big thing. Get plugged in. So you get the 16-hour practice analysis, and then you move on to a program. And then, so it's like for you, it's like 6 hours. And then Bob, who does all the analyzing, it's like another 10 hours of him analyzing. He does all the heavy lifting. There's like 16 hours there. Then you get trained for 40 hours. You and your key staff, the people you pick, get trained for 40 hours, 5 days, 8 hours a day. You break it up however you want. It could be live. It could be a weekend and a weekend. It could be we come to you. You come to us. We don't care. But you're going to get 40 hours of the training. Then you're going to get 52 hours of the consulting, which is never just 52 hours, because y'all come to us with a lot of fires and we hold your hand and we get you through. And then the person that is your consultant has to look over your case, for lack of a better word. So we call it like a case supervisor. So like you're your own entity, and that consultant consults that entity, and then they look over that, and then they're always going over your stats, which now you learn how to put into a system that you're taught on, and it's an amazing system, and it's made just for pediatric and just for adult. And then for pediatric, it's broken down like how you pay your staff. It's amazing. And then you track how you're doing and everything while you're learning and implementing and training. That's a year. Could you imagine 120 hours of consistent, stable, sane, not somebody trying to like throw stuff on the wall and see if it sticks, not reinventing the wheel, but giving you something that they perfected over 35 years? Cassandra's shaking her head. She knows. Your practice will not be the same 120 hours of CEO school. Because let's be honest, you guys went to school to become amazing clinicians, and you're not trained. You didn't go to CEO school for 4 years. And we have people that are MBAs in healthcare. They're like, oh my gosh, I could not figure this out, because private practice is its own animal. It's very different than running like a hospital. So much red tape and the way they do things in a hospital. This is your baby. There's no board of directors. There's no like 20 people weighing in, department heads from everywhere. It's very different. So just wanted to give you the background on that. And then when you hear that, then the whole thing becomes like super affordable, because like Emily Watkins, 3 programs in, she 50x'd her practice. Would that be worth some time, money, and effort? I'm going to go with hell yeah. Not just yeah, hell yeah, it is. And that's why I do it. That's why I do it, because this is why I'm out here telling you about this. Because I don't know, guys, you might be able to tell, I can sell sand to the beach, okay? I can go to Jones Beach in Long Island and be like, hey, beach, I think you need some sand. And that beach will be like, where do I get some? That's the effect I've had since I'm 12 years old and was selling candy and seeds, packet of seeds door to door. I only sell that which I believe in. I don't even sell survival. Once you cross over to the other side, you're on the other side. I am just over here taking responsibility for your profession, bringing in these cool people like Paul, and then trying to lead you to the best thing that'll be the next best thing, not the next most comfortable, but the next most right action for your practice. That's why you talk to our people. Sometimes we get you on the phone, we're like, girl, you need a book. Go buy our book. It's $29.95. Go to survivalstrategies.com/shop and get the book. See how I just sold sand to the beach there? See how I got that little plug in for the book? That's what I do. Anyway, go buy the book, Keys to Private Practice Success. And anyway, so guys, it is so what I see in 5 years of doing this, of like having the community and the conferences and be able to really watch people. Oh my gosh, it's like going up to somebody with a wonky dining room table that they love and giving them 4 solid legs and going, here you go. Here's the table that you didn't want to throw out. Now you got 4 stable legs. And there you go. It doesn't matter what size you are. If you're small, we bring you to the next level there. If you're huge, but you're caving in on all of the, like, oh, whoa, this kind of, some of you guys, especially in peds, the practice grows like you put it there, build it, they will come. And boy, do they. And then you're like bowing under the pressure because you didn't build a solid foundation. You need a solid foundation. So, Paul, it was, of course, brilliant because I'm one of those people. I had to read, I had to get some training because I used to, when I first started with survival and I was an employee, I make the world's worst employee. Never hire me, I'm just saying. I make the world, I'm an entrepreneur. That's what I do. And that's why I love you. And that's why I champion that entrepreneurial spirit. Here's the thing. When I was in, this is why I'm like the world's worst employee. I used to go into the CEO, Craig Ferreira. He's amazing. He's like best buddies with Paul. They go way back. I would go into Craig with everything and like with the problem and like Chicken Little, like this guy is falling, this guy is falling. Like everything was like a problem and I would have no solution. And then I would just go in and dump it on the CEO's desk. Like, just dump it. Just like, this is the problem. Bye. And I just like, you know, shake my butt over to the coffee maker and just be like, okay. And then they pointed me to a reference on what an executive wants on his lines. And I was like, oh, it's not me. Anyway, somebody's not muted, so they're cracking up. But I'm glad I'm making you guys laugh. But anyway, so if you have questions for Paul, I know I digress, but I wanted to give you that.
I found those slides, by the way. I for some reason had 2 versions of that. So I was showing the wrong one, but I knew I had some slides that I put together and I just opened the wrong one. You want me to show them real quick? Just examples of, this is examples of hatted staff blasting the communication lines. And I'm going to show you PR marketing stuff because
bring it.
And the right people, right? So, because I don't want to, I really want to emphasize, it's like, well, where this is the majority of your problems come from, this is where the majority of our opportunities come from too. To have hatted staff, to have the right personnel, to get people, really flowing on their communication lines. So let me see. Did I hit? I got to hit share here, don't I?
Get sharing.
Check this out from current slide. Woo! So I'm going to go back one. So here's just 2. This is just the PR marketing area. So this is, I showed this one last month for the power of promotion, right? But this isn't actually quite as correlative as the next one I'm going to show you, but it's pretty dang correlative. So this is just overlaying 2 graphs. This is just quarterly for taking the amount of promotion that we send out and laying it over our gross income. So this is the cause and effect of the right people sending out boatloads of communication, but being hatted, like they have to make adjustments, and look how correlative it was the last several quarters. It's like it almost lays right on top of each other. So they're applying the correct changes or alterations in their communication to make it more correlative, because we spent a bunch of promotion out here, where you see this big separation, which is fine, but man, the income production becomes more stable. Now check this one out. This is one that Wendy runs, because she's still over referral relations is one of her main things. I don't think you can get a lot more correlative than this one. We track the number of active referral sources, like how many people are active with our company every week and sending us people. And this is against our gross income, not our referrals, not our evaluations or our starts, not anything else, not direct access versus MD referrals, the number of active referral sources out in the community every week. And we count that as a really major statistic, but it's a measurement. It's an indicator of our level of communication and relationship building abilities and just persistence on that path. But here's the deal. It takes someone hatted. It takes the right person there, and it takes the right person there communicating every week. So this is the positive or the plus side that I wanted to emphasize. And I know Nancy appreciates the beauty of that last graph, especially because not just because she knows Wendy, but it's something that I came up with. I said, there's a point where things don't correlate as much as how much you're getting out and how many people you're talking to. So, and I discovered this in relationship building training with survival strategies. It's like, well, why don't I just count the number of relationships that I got that are active, that are engaged? And that's the correlative statistic. It used to be how many people you talked to, or how many visits you did, or whatever. No, it's how many. That's the result of effective trained staff. I love that kind of stuff because now it's so predictable. I can go to one thing. That's the why. Those two things drive our income almost more than anything else in our company. Nancy, back over to you.
Oh yeah, no, that's just great. And let me give you a little info on this Wendy Stanley that we're talking about. So Wendy is just a tremendous, beautiful being. She's just delicious. She's another one. And she's been with Paul like 18 years. So this gal, now there's 2 lemonades that if you guys don't know about the lemonade library, it's at pizzapalooza.com. You go to the Knowledge Center and then you go to the lemonade library. And like I said, if you're adult and you use the library, it's completely fine. It is password protected. And because there's counterfeiters out there that like that information and then they try to make it their own. So we don't like that. So now we're gonna see who's in there. So that's the girl from the Bronx, honey child. So the Lemonade Library, there's 2 Wendy Stanley videos and they might both be branded sort of holiday-ish and they shouldn't be. That's my bad, but it was around the holidays. You want to have, if you have what we call a PCC, a patient care coordinator, a community engagement coordinator, whatever you call the person that goes out and gets your referrals, they need to watch Wendy's 2 videos and just extrapolate out the fact that it's done around Christmas. When you hear the number, and you should watch it as an owner, because if you have a PCC and they're telling you like, I do 10 visits a week, you have to see Wendy's stats. Like they're almost unbelievable. What she counts as a visit, like if she goes to a doctor's office and just drops off pens or pads or treats or whatever she does in her magic that she does, and she doesn't actually get into 2-way communication with that front desk. Like, let's say they're all busy and they're like, and she drops them off, that visit doesn't count. And when I tell you the double-digit numbers of visits that she does, and then when I tell you how she'll talk about how she checks the stats on a daily basis, sometimes hourly, the stats are down, she is not going to be at the effect. Let me tell you something. In life, especially entrepreneurial life, you're in the freeway going 100 miles an hour and you're either the windshield or the bug. Choose. There's no gray. There's no, maybe you're hanging on like you're a mosquito hanging on. That's no fun either. But you're either the windshield or the bug. Choose. So Wendy is the windshield. All right. And so she'll see if her stats are down, she will go and be like, okay, let me go work on all of my clinicians and see who can contact some people that maybe fell off or whatever she does and works her magic. And then I'm telling you, double digits, she does like 60 visits a week. That means she drives, she dresses, she looks presentable, she drives, she's got things for them, she's got things to say, she's got a park, get out, high heels, the designer bag. She's quite the something something. Paul, am I making any of that up? Is that not Wendy's?
No, you're not. No.
No, I'm not. So go watch her 2 videos on the Lemonade and have your PCC watch it, because I'm telling you, they're going to come at you with like, oh, I do 10 visits a week, and you don't know. You think 2 a day. That's great. No. Go watch it.
Well, good. Hey, we about hit the hour, but I don't know whether I lose people or whether I just really don't have any questions, but I'm happy to give more examples too if anybody wants to talk about this. This is such a great reference to read too, by the way. Yeah.
It absolutely is. And also we have a survey. Guys, this is why we love talking to you. Here's the survey. We want to know. I don't own a clinic. Usually I'm talking to Diane that has 3,000 visits. Paul's got over 1,000 visits a week. So we're not usually on the pulse of what everybody is doing. So the only way we can do that, like this is how we figured out that you guys weren't having a hiring situation, you were having a hiring crisis. So this is how we find out. So the poll's really super important. And I just got a question there. What is the best way to access the most current management program resources for clients who have, oh, that's awesome, Jill. Just text me. I'll text you. I'll tell you who that terminal is, and we'll get you over there, and you can do that. Yeah, because everybody should review. We're looking at when we can do refreshers, et cetera, et cetera. And so we make that whole being able to redo the program without the hefty cost for a very affordable price. So that's a great question, Jill Ramsey. And that's it for me. Paul, you have anything that you want? Oh, guys, let me just give you an update, because Carrie Lee always pulls all this information for me when I'm blabbing my mouth off. As of yesterday, we had 37 rooms. I think it's down to 34 because 4 people booked rooms. So we're at 34 rooms, and that means that we're at about, give or take, 72 tickets. And then we're sold out. 72 tickets is like not a lot of tickets. So please, if you're even remotely interested, never hurts to talk to us. We talk to anybody and everybody, no cost. We love it. We always feel that we get something. We're going to ask you questions about how you're doing. We're going to find that out, and then we're going to build. We're doing now 2 live events a year and about 3 virtual. And we always need that. Like, take adding Emily to the event. I had no idea that this core values thing was a big deal, right? No idea. And I have no idea how that lands on you guys. But see, Cassandra is clapping her hands because it was really beautiful. And just presented like as if she was paid $1 million to do it. And she didn't. She got bupkis. She did it out of paying forward. Bupkis, Yiddish word from Yiddish, means like nothing. She got nothing. Oh boy, I need to stop myself sometimes. Anyway, I'm not Jewish. My dad spoke to me in Yiddish. He wasn't Jewish either. Don't ask. My dad was fluent in Hebrew and Yiddish. It's crazy. So I grew up my whole life with my dad speaking to me in Yiddish. Nish gedai get bubala. That means don't worry about it, honey. I should just make that a thing. If there's anybody Jewish out there, and Yiddish is a dying language, it's sad because it's beautiful. Nish gedai get bubala. My dad would say, Nish gedai get bubala. You should know from it, meaning I should never have to go through any of that. So Nish gedai get bubalas. You should never have to go from any of this. Paul, you have anything final to say besides, like, why am I so crazy?
I can't follow that. I can't follow that. No.
No, that's what Diane says, and it's terrible. Of course you can. I am the I don't know, one of these like sideshow people that the Johnny Carson has like the crazy sidekick. Diane always says, I can't follow this. Well, I can't preface you because I can't do all the admin technology. I am like the sheer motivation and information aspect. That's what I do. So you can all have that. Nish gedai get bubala. Don't worry about it. Take action. If you take action, action is the antidote to everything. And if you take action, even if it's not the right action, it will lead you to the right action. Action, action, action. My acting teacher used to say that when I was 22 years old. I'd say, I'm so scared to go do this audition. I'm so scared to do this commercial. I'm so scared to do this stand-up comedy gig. And my teacher would say, just take action. And I would make a list of action, like, okay, prepare, or learn my lines, work out every day, eat well, sleep well, don't worry. Look at other people that are doing the same thing and see what they did successful. Action, action, action. You will never get in trouble with action. Wouldn't you agree with that, Paul Silovsky? 100%. 100%.
And hopefully this presentation gets you dialed into what are the most effective actions, right? Because you really need evaluation tools, assessment tools to zero you in on what's most important. And I know this is a broad general thing, but man, if you really look through that lens, it is really true. You'll go, oh, wow, this thing's having an effect on me because of me and or someone in my environment. So maybe I need to do something about that. So anyway.
What I love about Paul, I think there's 2 things I love about Paul, and then we're going to let you guys go back to what you do best, treating those patients. 2 things I love about Paul. One, his heart is like, he just always wants to help and always wants to pay it forward, and is a huge champion of private practice. So That's numero uno. So that's my number one thing I love about Paul. My number two thing I love about Paul is that he never stops learning. And I'll tell you, being in the seat I am, we get people and they're literally a breath away from going under. I kid you not. They're a breath away from going under, and they just decide that they're going to go do it themselves. And my question is always, if you could do it yourself, why haven't you done it? So that is, and the people get staff and their staff go, we can just do this ourselves. No, if you could, you would. Do you have another year to figure it out? Another 2 years? I don't think so. So I say get on the fast track. So what I love about Paul, my second number two thing about Paul is that he never stops learning. He does not have that barrier. It does not exist in his being that he has learned everything and he knows everything. As a matter of fact, I do the juice and I talk to people at events and I know everything. Never. He's like, I know some stuff and I'm going to give it to you and I'm going to go get some more stuff for myself. I love that. Isn't that a great, that's just a great way to exist, people. So I'm starting to look at this presentation that someone brought to my attention called the 24 Traits of a Genius. And it is, I'm going to make this a presentation because it is beautiful. It's not this very inclusive, you got to have an IQ of this. It's a very, that's a very exclusive way. You got to have an IQ of like 145 or something makes you a genius. I hate IQ tests. They give men 5 points just for being men. And it's a lot of math and I don't think like that. And the 24 traits of a genius, you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a genius. You can actually expand on that. So Paul is a genius. He's got all 24 of those traits alive and in action. And so I want you guys to start looking at all the stuff he said and what you can do to further expand that CEO brain, because you guys have these amazing hearts to help. And then you got to get it. You got to like kind of put that on hold and just know that's the driving force. And then you got to get that CEO brain up and cranked up. All right, guys, we're going to see you. Hey, Paul, in a month, you're not going to be in the country. You can still do a juice or you'll be back or what?
Oh, no, I'll be back by the time we do that one. Yeah, I better be.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
But if I'm not, I'll still deliver it. I'll still deliver it from a remote location. So I'm used to being in a remote location.
24 traits of a genius. Paul scared
we actually have we haven't have a topic. We have a general topic. I don't know the promo's done on it, but we have, it's going to be on
that's correct.
On value, the value proposition, basically. Yeah.
That's right. The value proposition. I love that. All right, guys, we're going to go let you do what you do best. Thank you, Paul. Always great. And my hugest thank you goes out to all of you that made it here today, because we know how busy your lives are and you took an hour to be here. So we love you and we appreciate you. And we do see what you're doing. We do see what you're doing. So we love you guys. So go have a great day. Okay. Thanks, Paul. Bye.